The last time I was stood here, it was just before TANKFEST, and I was explaining to you the reason that unfortunately the tank couldn't run on that particular event. In order to fix the problem that we encountered, the gearbox had to be completely stripped and rebuilt, and along the way we also found another problem with the steering that also had to be rectified by taking the gearbox out again. This short video is just to highlight some of the areas and the problems that we had to fix in order that she could be completed, tested, arena tested, and finally completing her faultless run on Tiger Day 10. 1, 2, 3.
This is officially called the gearbox stepping operation. As you know, we had problems before TANKFEST. We tried to adjust the gearbox, discovered we couldn't, and then started to think about what the problem may be on the engagement side of the gearbox. And we came to the conclusion before we stripped it that we probably had the wrong thickness linings on the brake bands. These pre-selector boxes are in permanent mesh, and they engage the gear by stopping the outer of a drum with the brake band arrangement, which is self-wrapping. So on subsequent investigation, once we took the gearbox out and got into the problem, we were actually proved correct in what we thought the problem was, in that the thickness of the new linings we'd had fitted to the brake bands, which we had to guesstimate originally due to a lack of information, were too thick, and they stopped us being able to adjust it so it operated correctly. Because we now know Matt in Australia, he's got some new old stock brake bands. We managed to get him to measure some for us, and then we discovered that we were about a 1/16 of an inch out on the thickness, which doesn't sound a lot. That's about 1.5 millimeters. But if you add that over the circumference of the brake band arrangement, you lose your adjustment. So subsequently, we stripped the box, sent the bands off for relining to the correct thicknesses, reassembled the box, and then adjusted it. And subsequent to that, we've actually got it to work correctly now and set it up to the manufacturer's tolerances. Once we'd put the gearbox back in the vehicle, and we're getting quite good at taking it in and out now, we then started to yard test it, in which it became apparent that the gearbox was now working correctly. Unfortunately, we then discovered a steering problem on the left-hand steering brake, which is this assembly here.
The reason there was a problem was because these rollers were being allowed to ride too far up these cams when the stick was being pulled, and they were locking in position. There are stops inside the inner and outer drums on the Rackham clutches that prevent this from happening, and they've been sent one spline out. So in order to remove the inner drum, move it one spline to the left to allow these rollers to sit centrally in the depression here, and more importantly not be allowed to ride up this cam when the stick was being pulled, the gearbox had to come out again. Then we had to remove this inner drum, move it one spline to the left and move it back in again, and then reinstall the gearbox. The only thing I will say is in the manual it says that it takes 2 trained crewmen 2.5 hours to remove the gearbox, and thanks to all the practice that we've had, we've actually managed to get it down to that. There'll be one more Matilda Diaries, which will be a little more formal and give you the opportunity to get answers to questions that you've asked in your comments throughout the last 20 odd episodes. On behalf of the team, we would like to thank you for your support and hope that this will continue in future projects, one of which is turning up as we speak.
Right tanks are charging, defending your flank, protecting.
In the turret is the 2-pounder gun, encrypted.